Recording now.
Okay.
All right. Drew, it's good to see you, man.
Good to see you, man. Episode 4. What?
I
What's
feel
this, 5?
like, no, it's 4. That's how long
4?
it's
Okay.
been. Man, now I'm starting to feel like everything's been in my mind, like I've made everything up. Like everybody at work, I'm like, y'all aren't real. Like I just made it up. Like do y'all even exist? Have y'all ever existed?
Uh, What's weird is like, when I walk into work, I walk by several people before I get to my office. Um, or well, now I'm like, I don't remember a bunch of people. And somebody was asking me about somebody, a coworker was asking me about somebody else, and I was like, who was that? And like, that guy you always walk by, and I'm like, I don't even remember I don't remember what he looks like.
There's
Yeah,
probably
it's weird.
there's probably some people at work that I haven't talked to, probably like in 2 months, where I realized like the only reason I talked to them because I was there at work.
Yeah. I thought about that today. Earlier this week, I was looking through my instant messenger that we have at work, and I was like, I haven't talked to that person in forever. I haven't talked
Yeah,
to that person.
it's like you're not real. That's just a made up name.
Yeah, you don't work here.
Uh, but yeah, now it's getting real. I think now my hair is the longest it's ever been in my entire life. I was looking at some photos my grandmother gave me of
Uh,
my first haircut. My hair is longer than that now.
I mean, I let mine go for a while, but my hair. I just remembered when I grew my hair out before, when I used to have longer hair, like down to my chin, because my hair grows straight out. It doesn't lay down.
Right,
It
that's how mine
it
is.
takes forever to lay down. But
Y-
yeah, I was looking like I could comb the top of my hair because it was longer, but the side I looked like Wolverine, all pointy
Yeah,
and flat.
yeah. I haven't ventured out. I'm not gonna go out. I'm like screw it. For the first time, I'm just gonna let it grow to see the first time I could ever actually do something with my hair. Because my problem is I have like cowlicks all over my head, like all over my head
Oh,
and my
that's what I
face.
have.
Yeah, so it's like
uh,
forget it. All right, so we have a lot to talk about.
dude, I put this movie on again right now, and it came up to the ending, and I
All
was like,
right.
"What? What's?"
I think to be honest, I found out about this movie because told me about um what's that one that Miami
Miami
movie.
Connection?
Yes, you told me
Miami.
about Miami Connection, and somehow I was like Draft House Films because this is a movie from Draft House from Alamo Draft House. If people are listening don't know, they put out films or they help people make movies. They produce movies, and this is one of their movies, and that's how I found out about it. Like I just started going through all these trailers for Draft House Films, and that's how I saw this movie. And I'm like, what is this?
Yeah, I found out about it through Draft House because I had blindly purchased a few movies from them, and they were all great. And then this one came up, and I couldn't figure out what it was about. Like it based off the poster, I was like, I don't understand what this is. Then I thought it was a documentary, and I was like, then I kind of read about it, and I was like, this doesn't make any sense. Like, I mean, I was like, is this a documentary? Because I've never heard of this really happening. And so I was like, I'll just wait. And I never really heard about it until you brought it up to me, and I was like, all right. And then I started seeing on this movie website that I'm on, a few people were like, and it was so divisive. Like people just hated it, and then there were some people that they were like, "No, you're just not getting it." I
Right.
was
It's
like,
definitely one of those movies. It's either or. There's no in between. Like one of the reviews I read, it said, "Yeah, this is not a movie where you're going to get somebody that says, ah, it was all right." You know,
"Yeah."
it's either they loved it or they hate. They're like, "Fuck this movie."
I don't even know if we said it. The movie that we're talking about, if you keep up with us on Instagram, is called the FP. F is in Frank, P is in Paul.
And it's short
Uh,
for Frazier Park, the city that it's filmed in, and it's a real city in Northern California. It's north on the five going out of LA. It's a real city.
so first off, when this movie started, I was like, "Oh, this is like a a future, an alternate future," and then I was
Right.
like, "Oh no, this is filmed like right now."
It's
Well, I don't even know what the timeline is. Like it could have been right now. I guess it could be the future, but I
the
don't know.
first
It was kind of
the
weird.
the first time I saw it, the first thing that I thought about it, to describe it to somebody was like, imagine like Futurama, like the whole plot of Futurama, where you're frozen for 1,000 years, and then they unfreeze you, and you come into a culture you have no idea. It's America. These are
Yeah.
Americans, and they're humans, but they're talking to you, and you have no idea what they're talking. They have no idea what they're saying to you.
The other thing too, I was thinking about it a little while ago. So I was like, I just did not get that movie, and now I know how my friends feel when I make them watch some of the stuff. Like I
Well,
want to apologize. I want to apologize to all my friends that I've made them sit down and watch some of the weirdness that I watch.
so you're not wrong. It's not structured like a normal movie. It's barely structured at all. It's as far as like a three-act story. It's barely
Yeah,
structured. It's it's like it's like they made a movie in the '90s that was still stuck in the '80s. Like you're trying to make like you're trying to make a Charles Bronson movie in the '90s, but you
yeah.
want it to still look like Charles Bronson '80s movie. Oh my God! I mean, the reviews that I finally read about it, they kept saying things that there's a lot of geeky references and that it references a lot of other movies. I'm like, no, it doesn't. Like,
Really?
yeah, like I said, that it references the Warriors a lot or Rocky. I'm like, no, no, it doesn't. Did you recognize the narrator at the very beginning? Who it was?
No, no.
It's Ajax from the Warriors.
Oh, okay, okay.
James, what's his name? James Remar.
James Remar.
Most people, I don't know, most girls might remember him.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he was
Well,
Samantha's
when I was
boyfriend in Sex and the City.
when I was looking at this, when I was looking this up online, the guy that has the patch, he has
Yeah.
another movie, and James Remar's in it.
So let's tell people what this movie. Let me just give you the basic plot of this movie. The basic plot of this movie is like some kind of weird, like distant future, although it does look like the past because they still use beepers. They drive
Old
old
ass
cars.
cars.
Apparently, nobody has a phone at their house. You have to use either a payphone, and at the end, the KCDC guy, for some reason, has a mobile, like a super old mobile telephone. So it's like stuck in, I don't know. It's the future. It is the future, but it doesn't look anything like the future.
It is the future. He
It is the
says.
future, but it doesn't look like the future. And the whole
Okay.
plot is the way that they're like gangs in the city, like the 245 and the 248, which the city's not that big. I don't know how they even have two zip codes, but they're like two different gangs, and the way that they fight is they they fight on a dance game, and to get around calling it,
Like
or
Dance Revolution, like
right, to
that.
get around not getting sued, and they call
Yeah.
it beat revelation. And right off the bat, if you watched it, everybody talks like, how would you even describe the way they talk?
it it's what I told you.
It's not even Ebonics. I'm not afraid to say it. It's
Um,
it's street. They talk like street lingo.
but it doesn't sound fluent. Like they sound forced. Um,
Yes, because
you
the
know how
whole dialogue is
like
street.
have you ever
Every
heard somebody cuss and you're like, man, that person can cuss. Like they could put the words together and
right,
it sounds cool. Like these people sound like they're just learning how to cuss. It sounds dumb.
like somebody who doesn't speak English and they're just catching on the cuss
Yeah,
words.
yeah,
And they say the N word a lot, but they don't say
a
it all the
lot.
way. They say Nigga a lot. like everybody, and I don't think there was one black person in this movie.
Yeah.
There was the sidekick is the Asian guy. Somebody described him as that KCDC guy. He was Mackay Pfeiffer to J Tro's Eminem. I've never seen that movie. So like some like the AV Club, like I said, a lot of these places are like, oh, it's like it's like a joke. Like the whole thing, like it knows it's funny. It's not trying to be serious. It knows it's funny, and that it goes like that. It's like a wink, wink, and a nod, nod to all these other movies. So I'm like, no, it's not. I think maybe they tried to do that, but they came up with their own weird meta cult movie because it's just you're like, what the fuck is going on here?
I couldn't figure that out either. I was like, is this a joke? Like, are they in on the joke, or are
I
they
did.
being serious? They didn't realize they were making a joke.
So it's the two brothers. It's the Trost brothers. The guy with the patch, his name is Jason Trost, the one they call Jatro. That's his real
Right.
name, Jason Trost. It's him. He wrote it, and his brother, Brandon Trost, directed it. So they made a short. They made a 13-minute short out of it, and then they got money to make the movie. Their dad apparently is like a very famous FX guy in Hollywood, and I think they made it was 40. It cost them $45,000 to make it, and they made it there at their where they live. They grew up on their dad's ranch, like it's all filmed there in Frazier Park. It
I,
cost them 45, and it only made $40,000 at the at the box office.
I also heard that they recouped zero money from this.
Right, because yeah, it cost 40. It cost 45, and they
Uh,
only made 40,
well,
so they lost $5,000.
and amazingly, they had trouble getting funding because of that for the second or the sequel.
Oh, we're gonna get into that. But yeah, so basically, it starts off with it's the two brothers. It's Jatro and his brother Betro, and they're about to fight the other guys. His name is LWE. His name is Lee, but they call him LWE. And they get in this. The Jatro goes first, and he beats one of the other kind of little sidekicks, and then his brother goes in there, and he he dies. He basically dies playing Dance Dance Revolution. And when you look at the game, when you're looking at the screen, how it's just like the Dance Dance Revolution. It's got all the moves in there. It tells you if you're doing good, but it's all street lingoized. Like it says
Yeah,
whack, whack,
yeah.
and then
Still,
yeah, 187. Um, and it uses some Southern California lingo too, because if you
that
notice
was
where
the
the
other thing
points,
too.
what?
It's like a bunch of different slang mixed together, and slang from different eras all thrown
Right.
in. And I was like,
It's because in the middle, instead of saying points, it says ducats,
yeah,
which is very Southern California. You're not going to hear that anywhere else. So he dies, and then the next thing you know, the soundtrack is pretty good. I'll give him that. It's got like that '90s kind of late '80s '90s kind of I don't know synthesizer soundtrack. Anyways, at the end, he's like, "I'll never." He's like, "No." His brother dies. He's like, "I'll never play Beat Revolution again." And the next thing you know, he's working like in a logging camp, like Mandy, like what's his name, uh,
Nicolas
uh,
Cage.
Cage and Mandy. He's like working in the fields, like cutting up logs in the middle of California. And then of course, KCDC comes back looking for him, and like you got to come back. And they're apparently their big thing is the liquor is what controls everything because there's no liquor now because that guy that beat his brother, he owns the liquor store and he controls who gets liquor. Everybody who was a drunk is now a hardcore drug addict,
Drug addict. Yeah.
and he needs to come back to let the liquor flow. That's a very, very loose plot. From
No,
there,
that mean that's the plot. You just stop so that if
yeah.
anybody wants to watch this, they can figure out what happened.
But there's a lot of times
But
I don't know if you like a lot of times like as you're going through the movie, in my mind I'm thinking, wait a minute, is the movie still going? Because it starts going into scenes. You're like, wait a minute, are they trying to move the plot along? It's just like, wait, am I still watching the movie? What am I watching
you know,
here?
I thought it looked well. I thought it looked really well. Like, I mean, it looked really good. The camera, the way they filmed everything, it looked good.
Yes.
But as soon as I would think something good about the movie, something would come along and just trump that. Like you mentioned the
Right.
soundtrack. I don't think I even noticed the soundtrack because that whenever they would do the competitions, it was like throbbing Euro techno beat
Yeah.
type of music, and it
So
was
I'll,
so loud.
okay, so let me go back on that. Like in the quiet scenes, like where you're just
I
looking at the
know.
guy walking
I
around. But you're
Yeah,
right.
I
Like
know what you're talking about.
most of the time it's like doof 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 doof.
Yeah,
It's like crazy. Um, there's like a couple of. I mean, I wouldn't call them a couple. I mean, most of the people are not famous people at all. The guy who plays Casey DC, he's from New York. His name is Art Sue, and he's
the
like,
only one I recognized was LWE's sidekick that carried the boombox.
tell me
He
where he's
was
from.
in Cabin Fever and Detroit Rock City.
Exactly. He played the guy with the real long hair in Detroit Rock City. Because I was like, where
Yeah,
have I seen this guy before? And I finally looked it
yeah.
up. Yeah, he's the guy in Detroit. Um, that clown Afro guy when they go to the first
Oh, that's right.
challenge. That guy's kind of
I've seen
famous.
I've seen him, and then the dad of the girl.
Right. The dad usually he's played like the geek in a lot of movies. He was in
Yeah.
People Underneath the Stairs.
Oh, the guy with his tongue cut out. That's right.
Right. And then he was also in I wrote it down here. I also wrote down all of LWE's best lines for you. Um
Actually, LWE was probably the most interesting character in
yeah,
this
he
movie.
was. He was.
Like
Yes.
he looked cool. He dressed cool. Like just when he opened his mouth, that's when he ruined it.
That guy Sean Whalen, he was People Under the Stairs, he was in Twister, and he was in Never Been Kissed with Drew Barrymore.
Oh, that's right. Okay, I
That
remember him.
Clifton Collins was in he was yeah, I remember. I was like, that's where I remember he was in Westworld. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, he was in there. He always gets cast as like a Hispanic person, that guy.
He was in Westworld.
Yeah, he was in Westworld. Not the movie, the TV
Movie?
show. The
Oh,
TV
never
show.
mind. I haven't seen the TV show.
Yeah, he always gets cast as Hispanic people. Um what's other
Vato number two.
yeah, yeah. The guy he first like so I wrote down the plot, like I said, because this is not you know the story. You get the beginning, like something usually happens at the beginning. You get trouble, obstacles. Normally in the second scene, the second act, the end of the second act is like something bad happens, and then the third act
Okay.
is how that's resolved. This movie doesn't do that at all. Like that, like the biggest thing that happens is he thinks he's getting close to that girl, and then she still goes off with L Dub. Or really, the biggest thing is he gets drugged at at that first contest, and they're like, "Oh, we almost lost you, B." Man, oh my God, I can't even go into where they had like they're like bunkers, and he's like, "Oh, back in the Civil War, this was the Underground Railroad." I'm like, "What are they talking about?"
So when he gets drugged and he wakes up later the next day and he's like laying down with like it looks like medical equipment hooked up to him.
Right, right.
When they get close to him with the camera, you can see it's a VCR TV combo.
Yes, it's a sharp. It's a sharp brand little PCR combo. Um, what was I gonna say? Yeah, so it's like loosely like it's just a loose storyline where it goes to, um, but I don't know, man. I just got fascinated with this movie. Like I'm telling you, I've watched this movie like 30 times. I'm like, what is going on? I really think they're like, there's no way anybody's gonna give us money to make this movie. And guess what? They did get money. They're like, okay, I guess we're fucking making this movie. I think they were just going along as they were going. Because I did find some interviews with them. Their sister was the costume designer, which I think for it being a low budget movie, I mean I mean it looked I mean, it wasn't horrible. I mean, the way people were dressed,
Yeah,
they were dressed like park, like chic, like derelict. They were dressed most of the time. Um,
derelict.
I'm trying to see where I was going with that. But yeah, like everything, like Jesus. Um, yeah,
I don't. I mean,
it was just over. It's like they just threw so much at you. It just throws so much at you. Like done. I'm done. DUN. Done.
like it. It was. Like I started watching it and I couldn't figure it out right away. Like a movie will kind of reveal itself, like you'll be like, oh, this is comedy, or oh, this is drama, or this is
Right.
art film, whatever. I could not figure this movie out like halfway through, and I was like, I'm seeing comedy, but it seems I'm not certain if it's intentional or not. And then the guy with the patch, Jatro,
True.
for some reason, whenever he falls, he did ridiculous falling. Like,
Right. Like when he sees her again for the first time, he like
yeah,
immediately tries to
it's
fall
like
behind the car. I'm like, what is
it
this guy
looks like
doing?
he jumps up. It looks like he jumps up in the air, like planks, and then falls.
And he's
And
the only one. He's the only one really that doesn't like completely stick to the dialogue or like the style of the dialogue. Everybody else is like they're gung ho, like the KCDC guy and the
yeah,
girls Stacy and LWE and all his cronies. They're like legit to the way they talk, and he's like he'll say some of it. Like when he's talking to his brother, he's like from the floor up to the whatever. What does he say? What does he say? That fucking tore up from
yeah.
the floor up. He'll say stuff like that, and then all of a sudden, like everybody will be talking to him, like their girls talking to him, like yo, and he'll be, and he like comes out of it. He's like, it's almost like he's the nerd, or almost like he doesn't fit in, and like he starts talking like a normal person more than anybody else.
What's the reason?
Or he's like I wrote it down. One of the things that LWE tells him, what does he say? Um, what is he telling me? He basically, because you pointed out one of those things too, like what the girl says, where like, how am I supposed to stand up for myself if nobody else stands up for me? There's a
Yeah.
lot of stuff like that. You're like, what? But before that, they're having a whole conversation about where, yeah, like he put some turpentine in my drink one night, and when I woke
Yeah.
up, I was like, fuck it, and and he's like, oh,
The,
that's gonna be a
the
rad story.
abortion, the abortion thing,
No, but
where
yes, I know.
that's another thing where she's talking about having an abortion, and she's like, the coat hanger took care of that real good, or
Right.
something like that.
That's where he breaks instead of saying something like street, he's like, what? But that whole conversation though, before she says that to him, he's like, oh, that's a rad story to tell the grandkids. And then she
Yeah.
says something else, and he's like, you deserve better than that. And she's like, what? To be a grandma? No, but there's one scene where LWE tells him something. It was after he won that first. He goes, "Oh, you gotta go do that." He's like, "Why don't you just?" Well, before that, remember one of the things he's like, "Why don't you just fight me right now?" He's like, "Politics, bitch." So he goes to that first thing. Oh, that's what I was gonna tell you about. So he goes to that first time. He's like, "Go." Basically, he says, "Okay, go beat this guy. There's like a regional thing. Go beat this guy, and if you can beat him, maybe I'll challenge you." The whole trope, like you can't just fight me
Oh,
right away.
okay.
That guy was a trip. That he talks like a Russian guy that was like giving him shit.
Right.
He's like, I'm gonna put your head in a hole and take a shit on it. He's like, what? Believe it or
Okay, I
not,
didn't understand that. Yeah,
yeah.
that
Believe it or
it
not, I
must.
looked that guy up. I'm like, is this guy in anything else? You remember Tommy Boy, right? The movie
Yes.
Tommy Boy. Do you remember the scene where he's on the lake with that girl and there's those two little kids or start saying, "Hey, fat ass," or like they're like telling
Yeah.
him that? That guy was one of those kids. How
He's
random is that?
grown so much.
But what does he tell him? Oh, but after that, like then he shows up and LW's he's clapping like, "Great job," you stupid. He's
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
giving him shit, and he tells him something like, what does he tell him? But he tells him something, and then J-Tro's like, "I'm right here." He says something to like, he says something like, what are you trying to hide from me or something like that. He's like, oh, that's what he says. He comes up, like he shows up there to him. He doesn't know he's coming, and he basically tells Jatro, like, what, do you think you can hide from me? He's like, I'm right. What do you? He's like, that's what he breaks. He's like, what are you talking about? I'm right here in front of you. I'm not even trying to hide. I didn't even know you were coming here.
Yeah. I just did not get this one.
His best quotes:
I,
"Eat shit, Romeo." Yo, clam chowder. Why you slobbering over my meat when he's talking about the girl?
So you want to tell people what NIGGA means?
Oh, we're not there. We're not there yet. Other things he says, because we have to talk about the whole end of the movie too. So we're in the middle of the movie. So he beats
Oh,
that Russian guy.
don't reveal that.
Well, I mean, towards the end, I want to talk about some
Well, I
things.
guess. All right,
That's the
all right,
whole point. I'm not gonna ruin nothing. We told people to watch it. I'm telling you. You know how long I've
all
been
right,
wanting to
all
talk to
right,
somebody about this movie.
all right.
So he does that. He beats that guy, and then he finally agrees to fight him. That's another thing that's about this whole training routine. It goes like the whole trope. Like at first he can barely run with the guy. Next thing you know, he's beating what's the guy's BLT is his name. I don't know what that stands for.
Yeah,
Um
that in that training sequence, like like all training sequences, they show him and he's like struggling, and then at the end of the training sequence, he's beating his teacher, like
BLT.
running. They're running like on a flat piece of land, and he's like, "Nobody's ever beaten me up this mountain before." I was like, "That is not a mountain."
The funniest part is when he's carrying KCDC on his back as he's doing the Dance Revolution. That was hilarious. I'm like, what is he doing? I was like, oh my god.
What?
Um,
Okay, I missed it. What were those stupid boots?
I don't know. I don't know. I
They're
don't know why they're so big. You could tell they're light.
right, but I was like, okay, I didn't understand if they were like making him, they make him dance better or what.
Apparently
But
so.
yeah,
Apparently, like they're
they're
special.
ridiculous. The
They're like
boots look like somebody
mega
wrapped a comforter around a pair of boots, like a bed comforter around a pair of boots.
or
Like
yeah,
they're
or
that,
if you've ever seen the cover of Mega Man the video game, he's wearing shoes like Mega Man.
but he's built like a human being.
They look like robot shoes. They're like robot shoes, but they're not metal. They're like made out of. You could tell they're not heavy.
It
They
looks
look
like a
like
cup
they look like they're made out of windbreakers with a lot of buckles.
with but puffy and full of stuff.
Right. These were your bio dads. Okay, so that happens, right? Then he decides. Then he starts getting close to
So
that girl. He starts getting closer to her. Oh, another thing I want to talk to you about. So like he's getting better in his training, and so because he got drugged, all of a sudden they're like, okay, now we got to carry guns because now it's getting dangerous because you got drugged and we almost lost you. So they have
yeah,
a whole thing. They're shooting the clay pigeons, but for some reason KCDC uses a slingshot and he's using the slingshot to clay the clay pigeons. So after that, he's like, "Do you really think they have a whole conversation?" He's like, here's this," or he tells him something about like, "You've been talking to that girl. Here's this." He hands him something. You can't really tell what it is at first, but it looks like something wrapped up. And then it cuts to a scene where he's in the playground with that girl, and she's digging in the sand, and she's talking about not hanging out with those other girls.
what was she looking for? Because
So
she
let me
said
let me
so.
finish. Let me
Okay,
finish.
I heard what she said, and I saw what he gave her.
Right. So the whole dialogue it starts off was like, yeah, those girls with she's talking about one of her friends where her tits are out through the whole party, and there's one girl in there every party scene her tits are out. And when you look, if you stare at her in the background while they're talking, she's like talking to like she's having a conversation, like she's talking to somebody. There's nobody in front of her. Anyways, she says they're in the playground and she's digging in the rocks, and she's like, oh, those. She's like, where are those girls at? Oh, they're with the older kids they're chugging down mouthwash. And he's like, "What are you doing there? Building a sandcastle?" She's like, "Well, my dad takes all my money for liquor." She's like, "I'm looking for a rag," is what she says. And then that's when you realize what he gave him for no apparent reason, no setup to why he gave him this.
Yeah,
It was a tampon.
and he's like, I have one right here.
He's like, "Oh, I have one right here." like that's how they pick up chicks in the Frazier Park future. It makes no sense whatsoever. And she's like, "Oh my god, thank you." And then he's like, "You need somebody to walk you home?" And she's like, "No." And he's like, "Oh, okay." She's like, "I'm just kidding." I'm like, "What is going on here?" Um. So then they go and he find. Oh, and that's when you find. That's when the whole time she's just been yelling at her dad. Like they live right next to each other. That's another thing. He gets there. Why does he get to sleep in a? Why does he have to sleep in a tent? I would rather sleep on the couch than sleep in the tent. Or why is the couch? Yeah, he makes it seem like, oh, yo, dog, I gotta sleep on the couch. I don't even get a room.
I
It's like,
like,
how is
I
that
like how
not
that's
better?
I like how that's the one thing that you're like, this doesn't make sense.
But I'm like, how does that, how does that not, how is sleeping on the couch not better than sleeping in a tent outside?
Mark, Mark, the rest of this movie does not make sense.
That just made no sense to me. I'll be like, I'll sleep on the fucking couch. You go sleep on the fucking tent. Anyways, so yeah, the whole time she's yelling at her dad. They live in a tiny little. I'm guessing they both live in there. They live in a tiny, like looks like a 1 bedroom trailer. Finally, he's like, "No, you deserve better than this. Don't talk to him." Now you see the dad. The dad comes out and he's dressed up in makeup
The
and
bikini.
I don't know. It looks like looks like a toy tennis racket, but if some apparently it's electrified.
Oh,
I don't
it's
even know what that was.
no, it's a fly swatter.
An electric fly swatter?
Yeah,
I've
it's
never
my
seen
brother
anything
had
like
one.
that. Are you
Um,
serious? Okay,
they
well that's
sell
it.
them like at it's like those fly swatters that has the electricity, or they shot the bugs in the middle.
Never seen anything like that before in my entire life.
What?
That seems dangerous. That's like a cattle prod
Well,
almost.
it is. There's a bunch of videos online of people trying to touch it, and then they they get shocked and they fall or they scream or whatever.
So he starts beating up Jatro with that, and then Jatro finally beats him up. And then as soon as they get away, he's like, "Let's just go." She's like, "You're right." Well, then L Dub shows up again, and he makes a anal sex joke. Um, he's wearing. He's like, it's like he's always wearing jumpers, and for some reason in this scene, he's got one arm out, like he just went
Or
to
he's
the
got
bathroom.
flip flops on though.
Right, and like he just went to the bathroom. He's got like he had to go to the bathroom. You know, like one of those things like when you go to the bathroom, you have to take the whole thing out. It looks like he just went to the bathroom and he forgot to put one arm back in. Um, but yeah, his sayings are good. That one, it was good. Why are you slapping over my meat? He said, "Why don't you fight me now?" He goes, "Probably because it's probably. Oh, problem is I don't beat bitches." Um, he's like, "Nice job, Doctor Bitch." That was a good one. Oh, one of his threats was like, he says that's there was that one scene. He's like I'm gonna fuck you up. He's like his threat to Jatro. He's like I'm gonna throw you down some stairs.
Oh yeah.
Oh my gosh. So no, so towards the end, so, okay, so they have the battle. Um, oh, after that, for some reason, that's a whole nother scene. After that, for some reason, L Dub is, I guess he's scared now. He's taking it serious because he goes to the phone booth to call the other guy whose name is Sugar Nigga that has a neck brace, and the entire scene it cuts to L Dub, and you can hear him in the phone booth, but then it cuts to the other guy who's getting a blowjob in his trailer, and the music is all the way loud. You cannot hear at all
And
one
anything
thing the
he's
guy
saying.
says through the whole scene. And first, yeah, and
But
let's also
you can make it out.
kind of
Well, I mean, I could make out a few things she was saying, like, well, I mean,
also
but
also like they're dressed like rebels from the South for some reason. The bad guys are dressed like they're always wearing they're wearing the Confederate flag.
uh,
They have the rebel hats. They're wearing
was
gray like the Confederate soldiers.
what was that movie with B-Rad?
Oh, Malibu's
Uh,
Most Wanted.
they're dressed like a mixture of Confederate soldiers and Malibu's Most Wanted,
Right.
like his
They're,
crew.
it's like if the Confederate soldiers' outfit was the same color, but were also velour tracksuits.
Yeah.
Um, so the big fight comes, of course. That's another thing. Like, there's really no conflict in this whole movie. Like, nothing really bad happens to him except for the very beginning with his brother dying. Throughout the whole thing, he beats the first challenge. Yeah, he gets drugged, but he lives. And
Can't get his girl though.
I mean, yeah, I guess. But, oh,
Yeah.
that was another thing. Like, somebody quoted on, I think it was the AV Club. Like, this was the weirdest love triangle in all of cinema. Because it was between him, the girl, and L Dub.
Oh, no.
because she was kissing on him, and then she would just go and start giving L Dub a blowjob in the car. That was the whole thing in the last. So they go to the thing. Of course, he wins, right? L Dub falls down. Also, his shoes,
Oh,
his
that's why. Okay.
the tongues. Did you notice when he was dancing the day? The tongues of his shoes were like he pulled the tongues out, like
Yeah. Yeah.
it was almost like the bottom of his shoes were out. Anyways, he dies. 187. Oh, and also like why all of a sudden KCDC, like remember, they'd just be somewhere and then when something crazy happened, all of a sudden he had a microphone in his hand.
Yeah.
Oh, that was a whole another weird thing where for some reason they decided to sing the national anthem before.
Excuse
I
me.
was like, what? I was like, just finish this movie already. Um, so that happens. He, of course, he wins at the end, but he can't take it, so he pulls out a gun. Let's talk about that whole scene. The guy's hiding behind a toilet,
Toilet.
being shot at, and the toilet never
How many
crashed.
how many bullets does he have?
Right. They were all using
It's
revolvers.
like,
They were
yeah,
using
I was like,
revolvers.
that dude shot like 24 times in that scene.
He takes off with her, and of course, that's when they have an explosion. So L Dub takes off with Stacy. They're running. He runs to his car. Right before he runs to his truck, he shoots at that food truck. It blows up for no good reason whatsoever. And then he's like, "Let me use your car to KCDC." He's like, and what does he say? He goes, "It's a weeknight." He's like, "What the fuck are you talking about?" So they get in and then they do the chase. And through the whole chase, L Dub is making the girl give him a blowjob. And she does give him a blowjob while they're being chased. And if you notice, they make a big point to show you with the lights in the dark that they're driving by that lumber company,
Right.
right? They both drive one way. They show a couple of more scenes where they're all in the car. Next thing you know, they're driving past the lumber company, but the opposite direction. Like how big is the city? What did they do? Turn around?
Yeah.
But I have to say at the very end, the fight scene, that was a pretty good fight scene. It was very well choreographed. It looked like they were
Yeah,
hitting each
I
other.
forgot about that. I wanted to mention that too. That was pretty cool.
They looked like they were hitting each other. It looked good. But oh, and that's another thing. Like they were in the car. He's like, he then for some reason, KCDC's like giving him shit. He goes, "You're driving like an old lady in the park." And he's like, "What the fuck?" And he pulls over and puts his seatbelt on. He's like, "Click it or ticket, bitch." And we're like, what is happening here? I feel bad for the
Uh,
person that was editing the movie. It was like, we need to make this longer. What are we gonna do? He goes, I don't know. Click it or ticket.
leave the dialogue in.
Um. So then, of course, he beats him, and then he beats him. For some reason, he's like, he had to question, like, he's like, what happened? He goes, you were a bitch. Now, how are you doing this? And that's when the famous line comes out. What is it? What is it? NIGGA. Never ignorant
Ignorant,
about never
gonna,
ignorant
gonna get. Uh,
never ignorant about getting goals.
it's never ignorant. Gonna get. I can't remember what the A stood for.
I wrote it down. I knew this was gonna happen. Where is it at? I knew this was gonna happen, so I wrote it down. It's never ignorant getting goals. Where is it at? Never ignorant getting goals accomplished. Because in the training, in one part of the training, when he's telling them the VOT, he was like, "There's a lot of niggas out there." He goes, "Don't ever forget, never ignorant about getting goals accomplished." Oh fuck me, this movie. What else did I write down about this movie?
That's not how it ends.
You're right. That's not how it ends. They're like, "I can't believe it's over. I can't believe it's over. We got those two guys in the trunk." He has that mobile phone for some reason because he's got to page him to come tell him where they're at because
Right.
apparently they have no other phones. He goes, he should be here any second. He immediately pulls up as soon as he says that. So they drive away. Next thing you know, because there's that whole scene that I put on the Instagram about his whole dialogue. He goes, all these drunks went fucking cold turkey meth. He goes, no drunks, there's no bums. Not no bums, there's nobody to feed the ducks. Yo, what is a town with no ducks? It's nothing. So how is this whole movie end? Which I'm telling you, just like every single scene, you're like, what is going on here? They wind up by the pond. I don't even know if they you could see the ducks in the background, but they wind up at the pond, and it's the closing of the movie. They're together. He won. He's with his girl. They kiss, and then immediately she gets on her knees and starts giving him a blowjob. And he puts his hands behind his head, like, yeah, Frazier
And
Park.
then the camera pans up, and there's a V formation of ducks flying.
That's right. And then it goes, then it go, then it goes to the whole closing scenes, and then at the very end, it puts a whole nother picture of the water flowing, and there's the ducks again too. Shit's
Ugh.
hot. Shit's hard in Fraser Park. Shit's hard in the FP, Drew. So your wildest dreams have come true because you are correct. There is a part two. This movie was made in 2011. They did an Indiegogo campaign for part two. It came out in 2008. It is on Amazon Prime for your enjoyment. And believe it or not, the production value went way up. It's
That
called
wasn't horror.
it's it's called FP2 Beats of Rage.
Of rage.
And this one is like it's years past what happened. They have nothing but booze. Now they're making their own booze. And then all of a sudden, this guy comes up, and they're all talking. He's a white guy, but he's speaking and he's basically like Spanglish. His name is AK-47, and he wears those very very long skinny Mexican cowboy boots.
Yeah.
He wears those to Dance Revolution, and they're and part of it when he beats BLT and kills him. When he's dancing, it shows where he's basically lifting his feet up and he's using the very very end of the point to do the dance to hit the buttons on the thing. um,
So
dude,
you
huh?
told me that the main guy, Jatro, always wears an eye patch.
Yes, he does. I don't know if
So
that. I don't know
I'm
if that's what happened. I don't know if this really has a bad eye, but every picture I found of him, he's wearing that patch.
well. I saw interviews with him, and he was wearing the patch. And then the other movie. So him and the guy that plays LWE,
Uh-huh.
that's I guess that's his friend, and he always uses him in his movies. Well, that's what I read, but I've only seen two movies of his.
They're in. They
The
were in
other
a. They were also in a Slayer movie too.
the other movie that that they showed he directed, he's wearing like a scarf over his head, but it's covering the same eye, or maybe it's just like a mask, but it's torn open to where only the eye that he can see with, I guess, is open, and the other eye's covered up by that
I wonder what movie
mask.
that is. So his brother was in a movie. Have you seen MacGruber?
Yes,
So remember when he's going to get all his guys back together?
that
Remember?
makes sense. Yeah.
He's going to get all his guys back together, and he goes and he's trying to get that guy. It's that wrestler. I think they call him he's a super tall guy, and he was
I,
bald. The guy where he's like
I remember
he marks him
where it
off because
was, but
he marks him off because he's gay because he goes to see him in the garage and he starts kissing that guy.
oh, that's right. That's right. Okay.
That's that is Brandon Trost. That was the director of this movie.
Brother, the real brother.
Real brother is named Brandon Trost. He's the one that kisses that 9 foot tall wrestler in the
Yeah.
MacGruber. Um, but yes, there is FP2, and it's an hour and a half long, and it's even more ridiculous than this first one. He gets for some reason there's a lot of Australian people in this movie. He impregnates.
Well, that's when I was reading about this. The idea of they wanted to have several sequels, and each one was going to be a different part of the world.
With this one, he
Frazier
ventures
Park.
out. There's a map. It's like a Lord of the Rings kind of map, and all of it is like
Yeah.
wet shit. Don't go here. Sticky shit. It. The map is even in street lingo. But I watched it right now. Like before, I watched it before we came on. I watched it. I enjoyed it. There's another Indiegogo because guess what? There's going to be a part three and a part four, and they're filming them together. FP3 Revelation, FP4 dash Evas. They already have $36,000 from Indiegogo to make the movie.
Okay.
Who keeps? It looks like on
All
the
right.
second one. I think on the second one, all the people that gave a movie to make the second one are in the movie, and at the very end in the credits, they're like special thanks to, and there's a list of 9,000 people. So it's got to be the people
Oh
that gave the
wow.
money
All right.
and the people that did the music on the band, or I don't know what it is. The people who did that. I'm gonna try to get a track for to open up the this episode. The it says music by Moon Wolf.
Yeah, that's what it was. Okay. I saw that. I saw the name when I was looking this up on Wikipedia and stuff.
I don't know, man. All in all, I know you say you would never watch this movie again. I'll tell anybody, watch this fucking movie at least once. Because you're gonna either be like me, or you're gonna want to watch it over and over, or you're gonna be like you, you're gonna be like, fuck this movie.
Like I man, I don't. This movie makes The Room seem amazing, and I'm talking about the movie called The Room, which has the distinction of being the worst movie ever made.
The best looking, worst movie ever made.
Uh,
Oh my
I
god, The Room.
I don't know. I mean, I watched this and I was just more confused, and then I got to the end and I was like, okay, and then I was like, I don't know if I want to watch this again with that knowing what it is now because it's it may have lost the magic with me.
Every article I read, they said no, we went into it knowing, and we made it to be a comedy. But
Yeah.
I think it
Well,
met it itself.
I figured that out afterwards that that it was billed as a comedy, and I was like, oh, okay.
But also when I was reading all those reviews, I'm like, these people are just lazy because in no way does it. And also, like, I guess they're trying to say, oh, it's like an ode to Snake from Escape from New York and L.A. But I mean, it's not. It's like to me, like I said, to me, I think I wrote down. I was drunk the other day. I was watching it too. To me, it's like it's like you let a middle kid or a high school kid see like from today watch like a movie from the 80s, like an action flick like Chuck Norris or fucking Charles
That's
Bronson, and let them write their own screenplay and say, but set it in the future, and you let them write their own screenplay. This is what they would come out with.
yeah. Okay, I'm gonna try and I what I told you yesterday. I'm gonna try and say it here without offending anyone, but
What?
like MTV and magazines that I used to read in the 90s, late 90s, mid to late 90s, they would do like these exposés on scenes in middle America, like a goth scene or a rave scene, like in middle America where they had, this is before the internet, so they didn't have access to anything other than what they'd seen on TV. So it was a bunch of these little towns where there probably weren't any minorities, and it was a bunch of kids that just you're like, this is gonna sound elitist, but you would just look at them and you're like, you're doing that wrong. Like that's not a rave club or whatever. You know, you would just look at it and you're like, okay, you've been to those. I've been to those clubs or whatever, and you would see them doing it, and you're like, no, that's wrong. And but they were like,
But you do
that's
you.
that's all they knew. That's all they knew, and they were enjoying it. And now only when you got older, then you were like, all right, they're just doing them.
Right,
But
like
yeah,
they weren't
that's what
trying to
this
be racist.
yeah,
But
that's what this movie reminded me of all the way through.
it's like that movie I told you about. It's called White Boys. Have you never heard of that movie?
Yeah, I've
It's like
seen that.
that. Like they're yeah, it's like they talk. I don't even say they talk like they're black. They talk urban. They talk, I guess, what they think that rappers talk like, or people who are hip hop lifestyle talk like, but they're
Right.
all white. And that movie was crazy. That movie was well, I mean, it wasn't crazy, but it was like it was very cringy. It was very cringe worthy, that movie, especially when they finally do meet a black guy, and he's like, "I'm not your brother," and then they go because they think they're gonna be doing some drug deal, and they like almost get killed in the big city, like for the first time ever, thinking they're hard, and they're just gonna go in there like they're a part of everything, and the people are like, you're lucky you didn't get killed."
Right.
And then, but then also too, it's like, I mean, look at Malibu's Most Wanted. I mean, that whole movie too. That was like basically the whole plot of that movie. Like, you're not black, dude. He's like, yes, I am black, and he's like, no, he really thinks he's black. Well, just like the Trailer Park Boys too, like J Rock, you
Right.
know. He tries to give that whole. He tries to give
Uh,
his whole speech about like there's different levels of black. You got Lionel Richie black, and then you got Michael Jackson, which you might as well not even be black.
yeah, I mean that's just what this reminded me of when I logged with this movie that I watched it on that movie website that I'm on. You can read reviews that other people have made. A lot
What
of
is that?
people were
What is
just
that site?
hung up, letterboxed.
Oh, see,
A
I've never
lot of
tried. I've never tried to read any of that stuff, and I need to do that.
you can read like if anybody you follow has reviewed it, you can see their reviews, and then you can see you'll see the most popular reviews that got the most votes on the website first, and then you can see if people responded or whatever. But a lot of people were just hung up on the language in this movie, the dropping the N bomb. Like, yeah, people were just trashing it because of that. Some people didn't even get through the movie. Some people were saying, "I just watched 30 minutes of it," and I was like, "I can't do this."
I don't think they were doing it like to be racist. I think, like I said, my very, very first impression when I started to watch it was like, how do you know how people are going to talk in the future? I'm sure if you took somebody from 100 years ago and they listen to the way we talk now, they probably think like, oh my God, these people are being so profane. They're so uneducated. But that's what happens sometimes. I mean, that's what I think. Like,
Yeah.
that was my first thought. Like these, and another thing was like, this is how people are probably going to be talking 50 years from now. Our grandkids or our great grandkids, you don't know. They could be talking like this all the time, and it just be norm.
Uh, the kids right now talk stupid. So,
Right.
but
Bet.
I guess we probably were stupid as well when we were young.
I mean, when I was in middle school too, especially growing up on the South Side, it was like, it was, I don't know, man. Like you
Well,
can hear anywhere I go. Like when I listen to myself on this podcast, and the more north I go, like I can hear it in my voice. Like I try not to talk that way. I try not to talk that way at work, but it comes out every once in a while. Somebody from work, they're like, "Oh," or somebody one time said, "Are you from?" Where did they say? They asked me if I was from somewhere. I'm like, "No," but they're like, "You're Hispanic, right?" I was like, "Yeah." I mean, you can hear it. I go, "I don't hear it because I'm so used to it, just the way I speak." But yeah, like it comes out. Like that South Side comes out of me sometimes. Like just the way, especially when I go see my old friends because they still talk like
Mark,
that.
you sound nothing like a South Side.
But I can hear like I'm telling you like when I hear my own voice, I can hear
Yeah.
it. And the more north I go, when I talk to people who are not from San Antonio, they can hear it too.
Huh.
It's that it's that it's that accent where you don't speak Spanish, but it's still like like George Lopez says, like you don't need it's like motherfucker has never been to Mexico, doesn't speak Spanish, and has an accent because everybody
Huh.
around you talks that way.
Mm, maybe there. I mean, there's probably some the way we pronounce certain letters or something that'll probably give us away, but I don't recognize it. But yeah, I know what you're talking about. There's now that you mentioned it or explained it a little bit more. Sometimes I'll hear somebody speaking like over the phone or something, and then they'll say a certain word or emphasize a letter too much or hold it out too long, where I'm like, oh, they sound like this or whatever.
Right.
Uh, and I think Hispanics do we do that with some letters.
Right.
But you're talking about the South Side. This reminded me when you said it sounded like somebody had the kid write it. When
Yeah.
I was watching this, I was like, it feels like a kid just learned how to cuss, and he's wrote the script. And I was like, in middle school, we cussed way too much. It was stupid, but yeah, that's what this movie reminded me.
Or like you said, like, what if somebody who doesn't speak English, like all they know is hip hop music or rap
Right?
music, and they think this is the way people talk.
Yeah.
Like you, like they don't say hi, they say yo, yo.
Yo.
They also like men also call. That's one thing I don't like. Or I don't know. I can't say I don't like it. To me, it just sounds wrong when men call women dudes. Like if it's like a husband is talking to his wife or a guy is talking to his girlfriend and he calls her dude, I'm like, that just doesn't sound right. I'm
I
not
do
gonna
that.
call my wife or my girlfriend dude. Like, dude, shut up. Like, no, I don't talk to my wife or my significant other the way I talk to my friend that I grew up with for 20 years. It's, you know what I mean? It just makes no sense to me.
Uh, oh well, I mean, yeah, but I mean, I have like sometimes anybody that knows me, sometimes I'll just be like, dude, this is
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah.
But I'm not like talking to
But
girls
I've
like,
never,
come on, dude.
yeah, I've never heard you say girl. I'd rather say like girl.
uh, yeah, this
All in all, what do you give this? What do you give this?
um, what's the rating system?
That's what I'm thinking right now. What's our rate? What's going to be our rating system?
Is it just the
Uh,
two hot?
is it a, Tim Duncan or is it a Yui Blab or Vinny Del Negro? I guess Vinny Del Negro will be the middle. Or
Uh,
is it no, that's mean. I'm not gonna say that.
we'll make
What can we
Gary
say?
Neal. Gary Neal will be the middle.
Or what can we say? Like what other kind of ratings?
Uh,
Is it worth watching at least once? It's not repeat. I don't think it's a repeat. I think it's worth at least watching it once. If you can get through
um,
it.
yeah, like I know there are certain friends. I'll say it's worth a viewing. I know there are certain friends I cannot recommend this movie to. Like they will not get beyond the language or the weirdness, um, and they just wouldn't. They wouldn't finish 30 minutes of it. But yeah, I would say if you could look beyond all that, give it a watch.
I mean,
Give it a viewing.
the more I'm thinking of it, I think the reason I like it so much is because I like absurd things. I like when things are absurd. That's why I like Will
You do,
Ferrell, and I know you don't like Will Ferrell.
you do like absurd things.
You know, it
So,
because to me it baffles my mind. That's why I watch Love and Hip Hop, and that's why I watch like the Shaws of Sunset, because to me it baffles my mind. It's so intriguing to me. These people live in their own little universe where they think
right,
they are the fucking cat's pajamas. Like in no way, shape, or form do they think they look like idiots.
right. I I get that, but I think I like it a little more. Like this is a comedy, so they were laughing too.
I think
But I like more if they were being sincere about something, and with what you said, like what you just said, they thought they were the cat pajamas. They were just being themselves, in their own little world. That would apply to the movie Grey Gardens. Different type of film, though.
this
Different
was like
vibe, and
this
it's
was like
it's a
the
true story.
very they were like, let's make a movie of the very first draft of our idea. That's what it is,
Yeah,
right? That's what
let's
it
run
is.
with the first draft. Yeah.
Good enough. Let's put the film on the camera. But the
I'm,
costumes, I think the costume, like the costume design was good. Everybody looked good. They looked crazy, but they looked good. Like their outfits really suited the craziness of the movie.
I mean, LWE was supposed to be, well, he was the villain and like kind of sleazy and scuzzy, but he was interesting when he was on screen.
When they throw that
Uh,
condom, when he's pushing the car, when he's trying to push the car, and they throw that condom at him. He tells him, "You trying to take a bite of my corn dog?"
I had to rewind that several times because I was like, "What? That looked like a condom. What was?"
It was just like random. It was like a random insult generator. Clam chowder, why you slobbering over my meat?
Uh, yeah, worth a viewing if anybody's listening that hadn't seen it.
And then when he punches his lackey, when he punches the guy that was in Detroit Rock City, like immediately he's like, time out, I got dust in my eye. And
Yeah.
he goes right to the ground. Oh,
I've been watching the trailers over and over, and then I started the movie over.
I'm telling you, watch the other one. You have the Prime. Watch the part two. You're gonna look in here like this looks amazing, and it's more batshit crazy than this one.
I'll watch it. I need to cleanse my palate with some weirdness or something.
My 7-year-old came in when I started watching the beginning of the movie, and there's a scene at the very beginning where he has a store that he sells shit, and these two little girls go in. They're probably like middle schoolers, and through the
Right.
whole scene, the entire scene, they're cussing at him. It's crazy. Like they're just having like a normal, like this would be like a normal conversation, but every other
Right.
word is a cuss word. And they were trying to buy a bop it from him. They're like, that's not a bop it. That's something else, like another thing like that. That's the whole scene. They're like, it's good in bucks. He goes, that's not a bop it, you motherfucker.
Yeah.
That's what they're trying to buy from him, a bop it. And like part of their what they're wearing, like the girl, I guess like instead of wearing like a earring or instead of wearing like makeup, the one girl has like like the letters you buy for your house, like that have the numbers, how they're kind of reflective, like they're black and gold. She's wearing
Right.
those on her cheeks. She's wearing them on her cheeks, like that's like a fashion statement. I'm telling you, dude, they were very creative. But this, oh man, oh, and all of a sudden, for some reason now they call themselves ninjas. The ones that do the beat, they're ninjas.
You said stickers. Did
Yeah,
you ever see that movie, The Apple?
the Apple. No, for some reason it makes me think about that Soderbergh movie called Bubble.
No. So The Apple came out very early 80s, like 80, maybe 80, 81. Um, and it's supposed to be in the future, and it's the year 1994. And it's a musical, but this has to be like when everybody in Hollywood was on cocaine because it's insane.
The
And
Apple.
it's the story of Adam and Eve, but told in
Oh.
the future. And Adam, it's this hippie couple that lives like in a commune, and they do acoustic singer songwriter music. Well, they 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 come to the big city to try and make it, and there's like this Satan looking character that runs the city, and it's just a guy dressed in red all the time with perfectly groomed hair, and he's always in red. I guess he represents Satan, and then he offers them this recording contract where basically they throw away their previous music and everything, and they start over as like megastars. Um, well, the girl wants it. She goes for it. The guy doesn't. So she's like, they dress her up all glam rock and stuff, and they have all these musical numbers. But in the future, apparently, everybody wears like reflective stickers on their face.
I need to
Um,
watch this movie.
so the movie Xanadu, I don't know if you've ever seen that.
Um, yes, I have seen that. I forgot why I watched that, but it's like, let me see what all the hype's about. No,
Well,
no.
I remember, I remember I saw that when I was very young, and we must have seen it a few times, and I like it. It's Electric Light Orchestra music, like
Yeah, they do have
Electric
music.
Light Orchestra, and the music's great. But that's a movie that they have to be on cocaine or something. Whoever made that. But my brother and I, we watched The Apple, And we were just like, "What is going on in this movie?" And when the movie ended, my brother said, "You know what? This is like, we love Xanadu, and then when people we don't know watch Xanadu, and they're like, "What the hell is going on?" They're like, "This is how they feel." And I was like, "Yeah, all right,
Yeah,
that makes sense."
Xanadu is like the ultimate like. I can't. How can I explain Xanadu?
It's
It's like it's like, hey man, as long as we got cocaine here, you can do whatever you want. It's like a roller
it's
musical, right?
it's roller disco mythology,
And I think that's like Fred Astaire's last movie. What
not
does he
Fred
play in
Astaire.
that? Yeah, or Gene Kelly.
Yeah, yeah, that was the last movie.
And George Burns is in it for some odd reason, right? Or is that Gene
No,
Kelly, the old man?
Gene Kelly.
Oh, and then there's the Muses, right? That's I don't know where they come out dancing. The Muses.
Yeah, Zeus's daughters. That's why I said it's mythology.
Is that? Oh my God.
Yeah, that movie's weird too.
Hey, I mean they made Staying Alive Part Two during that time too. So who knows? Have you seen that movie? I forgot what it's called. It's Staying Alive.
Oh,
No,
the
it's
more he's
it's
staring
it's
up.
it's Saturday Night Fever Part Two. It's called Staying Alive, where he goes to
Yeah,
become like a dancer.
right.
He's trying to be a dancer.
Speaking of Fiona Hughes is in there.
Paging Dr. Freud. Is that
She's
the girl?
she's
That's
also in
his love interest?
that. The one that he likes, the one with the long hair, the rich one.
Yes.
I think she was in several soap operas or something. But anyways, she's in the Apple too. She's a
Oh,
background dancer.
and this is the same time as the other one, right? The one I told you
Yeah.
it's this is basically a porno with no sex in it. The alien comes down.
Yeah, that was very low budget. Liquid Sky. Yeah.
Liquid Sky. Um, I give this movie. I'm trying to think. We need to come up with a rating system.
What was the old rating on the news? The film guy. Remember it was like jalapenos.
Was it jalapenos?
It was like three jalapeno. I think it was five was the max. I can't remember his name.
Uh, was it Larry Ratcliffe?
Ray Ratliff. Yeah, I think that's it.
Um, Patton Oswalt has a good bit about because he grew up in Sterling, Virginia, small town Virginia, and like
Mhm.
he's like for the longest time, all I had was the word of the film critic in the newspaper, and he loved all the shitty movies. And then when I finally saw a good movie, I'm like, what the fuck?
But he saw what?
When he finally saw a good movie, that the guy when he finally
Oh,
saw a
good.
movie that the guy was like, this is horrible. How did this get made? He goes like, he's like, my whole life changed because I'm like, I've been listening to this dipshit for all these years. Tell me that tell me that Beethoven's Fifth was a good movie.
That's like Roger Ebert, man. Like, Roger Ebert too. Like, I used to watch when I was a kid. Sometimes, not religiously, but um, a lot of people have uploaded reviews of his on YouTube, and he hated a lot of stuff I liked, and it's basically anything arty, um, anything that went into bad taste or things like that. He hated. He would trash, but
And this is the
and then
same guy
he
who would write movies for Roger Corman. That's how we got to
uh,
start.
the what?
That's how we got to start. Roger Ebert. He wrote
Yeah,
screenplays for Roger Corman.
and then he went back on several of his reviews that oh I was wrong. It was really good.
The best one that does good parody of like those kind of shows. Like there's really there's really not shows like that anymore. Like Roger
Yeah.
Ebert and Siskel, the ones that do good parody of it is that's Christopher Guest on For Your Consideration. It's those two guys. He's like, I love this movie. He was like, nothing happened. He's like, right. Isn't it great? Isn't it about time that nothing happens in a movie? He's like, did you get hit over the head with a frying pan? He's like, yes, that has happened to me. Nothing happened. I don't know. Like I was reading these reviews of this one. I'm like, man, it's like nowadays people are just in a rush to put out content now because there's so much. It's like, dude,
Yeah,
come on, do your job.
yeah. Worth the viewing if you have a chance. Anybody listening?
Okay, that's what I'm gonna say. I'm gonna give it. I'm gonna give it 3 out of 5 yos. Yo,
Uh,
3 out of 5 yos. I'll give it.
I'll give it 2 3/4.
I'm gonna give it a 3 and 76 tenths. I don't know.
76 tenths. That can be broken down. I'm doing my math right now.
Don't hurt yourself.
38, 38 fifths.
I think I'm just glad now that I got it out of my system talking to somebody about this movie. You're the first person I ever talked about this movie. You're probably the only person I've told about this movie.
Well, like I said, a lot of people on that film website I'm on didn't even make it through the movie.
I've seen this movie 30 times. I watched it since we talked last week about finally doing the podcast movie. I've probably watched it about 7 times since I last talked to
Mark, I don't know how you could do that.
you. And then I watched the second one today. I'll probably watch it again later on. It was a lot to take in, man. You think this movie was a lot to take in? That second one, it's a lot
Yeah.
to take in. A lot.
All
And the
right.
and the guy
I'll have to watch it.
and the KCDC, like all of them,
Uh,
they act exactly the same, like to the T. Like they took like a 5 minute break from part one, and they're like, all right, part two. They act exactly the same.
take a lunch. When we come back, part two stuff.
And they're all back except for the girl. Even the dad
Um,
is back. Even the dad comes back, like out of nowhere. Yeah. He's like in the crowd, and he's the guy takes over, the bad guy takes over, and he's in the crowd, and everybody like KCDC has his head closed, and he's the only one saying shit like "fuck this guy," and the dad's like, "What the fuck?" The dad's the only one agreeing with with the bad guy. Oh, that was a good one. All right, man.
but good choice.
We're at an hour 13. I think that was a good episode. It's good to get back. Good to see you. You get
Yeah,
to
man. Well, good.
you get to pick the next movie.
Um, let's see if we're doing a movie or something different.
What have you watched, man? I've watched this movie a lot of times. I've been watching a lot of movies. I've been watching a lot.
I watched. Of course, now I can't think of what I've seen.
I don't think you like Adam Sandler movies. He's not in this movie, but it's the newest David Spade movie on Netflix. It's called The Wrong Missy. It was pretty damn funny. It was pretty funny. It's where
Um,
it's with that
go
Lauren
ahead.
Lapkus. She's a comedian, and I've seen her in a lot of small things, but I think this is like her first major role. Where
Uh,
it's the premise is it starts off where he goes on a blind date, and she's just like off the wall crazy, this girl, and it's that Lauren Lapkus, right? So he's trying to get out of there. He goes to the bathroom to sneak out. Cause she's crazy. Like they'll be in there and like she says stuff like, "Oh my God, are we gonna fuck tonight?" And he's like, "What?" Because he plays like a real button down guy. He plays like a real button down
yeah.
guy. He doesn't drink and nothing like that. She's like, "What?" And like she's just loud. She's like she's there for like 5 minutes, and she's already gonna try to get him into a fight with this big guy that looks like Aquaman. And he's so immediately he goes to the bathroom, and he's trying to sneak out, and she catches him. She goes in the bathroom. She's like, "What are you doing?" He's like, "Oh, I was gonna play a trick on you. I was gonna go around and go into the front and play a trick on you. Like I didn't go to the bathroom." But he's really trying to escape. So he falls out the window and he breaks his leg, and it shows that his leg's all twisted. And she's like, "Oh, everything she says. I'm a registered therapist. I'm a registered marriage counselor. Like she's all these things." And she's like, "Let me snap it back in place for her." He's like, "Don't touch me." And she's like, "One, two, 3, and she doesn't do nothing, and he looks. She's like 4. Ugh, and she fucking breaks his leg back in place. So then he goes 6 months later,
What's it
right?
called?
It's called The Wrong Missy. And the whole reason
All
is
right, I'll
because,
look it up.
yeah, the whole reason is because 6 months later, like he's forgotten about her. He's alone. He's at the airport. He gets mixed up with the luggage with this really beautiful girl, and they hit it off. They're like exactly the same, and they're about to go into the bathroom and get down and dirty. But her plane leaves, so she leaves. She's like, "I'm gonna give you my number. We'll text." So he starts texting her. Like he finally gets enough courage. Like, "Hey, I can't stop thinking about you." He texts her, and then she texts back, and then he's texting her through this whole time, and Nick Swartzen's in it. He plays like the HR director, and he's like, invite her to the Hawaiian thing. We're going for our company. It's the company retreat in Hawaii. He's like, invite her. So he's like, okay, I'll do it. And she's like, yes, of course I'll go. Well, he gets on the plane. He's there with his flowers, and who has he been talking to this whole time? The fucking crazy girl. And she shows up, and she's the one that goes with him to Hawaii. He's like, oh my god, dude, it's fucking hilarious. It's really good.
All
It's
right,
called
I'll
The
look it
Wrong.
up.
See if you can get through like the first 10 minutes. But I liked it. I was laughing out loud. I was laughing out loud the whole time.
I saw a documentary on Galaxy Quest.
Oh, I think I heard about that. Is
Uh,
what was that on?
I think it was on Prime.
I need to check that out.
It was really good.
That's a really good movie,
Uh,
man.
well, that's what they were kind of talking about. That they had really good production value, and it just kind of it didn't really go anywhere until it hit video.
Yeah,
Um,
you say
and
that
then like,
my
well, there
that. Go ahead, go ahead.
you what?
No, go ahead. Keep on.
Uh, they interview Sam Rockwell, Sigourney Weaver, Tim Allen, um, Missy Pyle, several of the aliens and the cast, and they're all talking about like we love that movie, like it was great, and they're just like it didn't really do anything until it hit video, and all of a sudden, it became huge. And Sam Rockwell's like, yeah, like everyone asks me about that movie now, like they just keep bringing up that movie.
That's how a lot of things like, especially when video, like that happened to a lot of movies, like Big Lebowski
Yeah,
too. Big Lebowski didn't do anything at the box office, and it like became a cult. No, but you say
that
that. It's funny you say that because at work, one of my bosses, Kathy, I don't know if you know what I'm talking about, right? Long hair. She sits by me at the end, but I forgot what somebody said on there. But she told me something like somebody, oh, it was on Ken's news, right? I think it was something with the fuel, and like it said something like, oh, it's gonna save you like 10 cents, right? And somebody commented on Ken's Five by Grab Thor's hammer. What a
when
value.
this,
Dude, I was like, that's the best
uh,
thing I've heard in a long
I
time.
didn't tell you. I didn't tell you I got death threats on Facebook.
From what?
Because I follow Randy Beamer,
Oh,
and
okay.
he had
He
posted
retired,
like a few
didn't
weeks ago. He what?
he? He retired.
No, he's still doing the news. Um,
Okay.
he posted a few weeks ago, like 2 or 3 weeks ago, all these kids in tricked out cars blocked a bunch of traffic on Highway 90 by General McMullen, and they were just doing burnouts and donuts. And they blocked traffic for like a good amount of time, and it backed traffic up. And he posted a video that, of course, one of them filmed it and put it on Facebook. He got a hold of it. He posted the video, and he was like, "The cops are looking for for anyone involved. If you have any information, please contact SAPD." And a few people, he posted it like at 6:30 in the morning, and I was getting ready for work, like getting up. He posted that, and then I really wasn't paying attention to the thing about that the cops are looking for them. But a few people started commenting like they're always at Boulevardian 1604. They're always here, and I just made the comment like they hang out between 11 a.m. and 11:30 p.m. off North St. Mary's underneath 35. I started working, and then about 4 o'clock in the afternoon, I start getting alerts, and I'm like, "What the hell?" I'm looking at the comment, and it's all these young kids, and they're just like, "Cállate la boca." they're like, somebody was like, "Shut the hell up, Takashi 69," and I was
That
like,
was good.
"That's perfect." They're like threatening me. I was like, "This is great. Like, I'm gonna leave it up. I don't care." So I
That's
left it up,
hilarious.
and then like I guess the regular carp club people were like, you're the motherfuckers that give us bad names doing stupid shit like this," and I was like, everybody else hates you. Like, I'm not the only one. Fuck
They're
you.
saying you're the one that's giving people a bad name?
No, the regular car club people were telling the
The other
kids that
kids.
were doing it, and then somebody tagged a group, and it was called like 210 Takeover. It was a Facebook group, and apparently they like post in there where they go and everything. And I was like, y'all are the dumbest lawbreakers ever, man. But yeah, they were. I got messages. A few people like threatened me, and I was like, this is great. I have made it.
Like, don't get mad at me because now your mom knows where you're at and you didn't go to work.
Yep. But no, they're still hanging out on. I hear them all day and all at night, just like doing burnouts and donuts, and I'm like,
Dude,
shut up.
my pretty much my entire life until after even a little bit after high school, that's how military used to be on Sundays. I
Yeah.
used to work late sometimes, and the cops wouldn't even let me cross over military to go home. And they're like, "You can't go." I'm just trying to go home. I mean, look at me. I'm in a fucking '93 Toyota Tercel. I'm not cruising the strip. I'm just trying to get home. They wouldn't even let you cross over military because that's how bad
Why?
it used to. Because that's how bad it used to get. That's how bad all the people with cars would go, and then they
Like,
would
were
park.
they trying to? I know, but were they trying to protect you, or were they trying to keep you from
They were
cruising?
trying to keep me from crossing over. Like it
Oh,
would get to a certain point where they're like, nobody can come here anymore. Like they were trying to clear out the street because so many cars would go and come, and they
yeah.
would try to clear the street. So yeah, like I think one time it was like 11 or 12, and I was just trying to get home. I was working. I think I was when I was working at Borders, and I was just trying to get home, and they wouldn't let me cross the fucking street, and I was so pissed. I had to go. I basically had to get back on 35, go all the way around to 37, and go that way home.
Oh man.
No, go ask mom. Yeah, that the military was like that for a long time. Like all the pretty much like the late '80s, all through the '90s. It was like that. You could not cross. Like it was ridiculous on Sunday nights.
No, I remember.
People would get shot there. People like fights. It was ridiculous. But that was the thing to do on the south side. Like let's go military. If you had a nice car, let's go military. And they would race over there by Kelly. They would not by Kelly by Brooks. They would race over there.
I went down there a few times, and one time there was like a guy, and he had to get his speakers from his stereo system at home, and he had them in the back of his trunk with his trunk open.
Oh my god.
He was just rolling hard.
Ah, innocence. A lot of it was
Uh,
innocent.
where we at on time?
We're at hour 24. I
All
think we're
right.
good. I think we're good.
Well,
Alrighty.
cool. I'm glad we got to do this again. Glad to see the movie.
Yeah. Don't go. Are they gonna open up Joey's? Don't go over there, man.
No, I'm not going over there, man. I've already been having talks with some friends where I was like, dude, the sober people are starting fights and shooting people at stores. Like,
Well, because
now they want to try with drunk people.
today is what? Today's the 20th of May. I'm thinking. I think this weekend they're saying bars can open up again. I just don't know how.
Yeah,
I mean, I'm just like, just stay home. Just stay home.
it's there. There's too many rules. Like, if you want to go to a bar right now, there's too many rules that you wouldn't like even going to the bar. Like, you can't sit at the bar. Nobody can sit at the bar. You have to sit at a table. The staff has to come to you. You
We
can't have.
need to do it like we need to do it like Howard Stern does it. His staff, they have happy hour on Fridays, and everybody just gets on
Mhm.
Zoom. You can still talk to your friends, and you can just drink at home, get drunk, and you're not next to them, but you can still talk. We can all still talk to each other.
That's funny. Somebody sent me I think I sent it to you, that picture of like Australian guy Chris. Um, The guy that does No More Heroes.
Australian guy, Chris.
Yeah, the comedian.
Oh,
The one
Chris
that
Lilly. Yeah, yeah. Chris Lilly.
I think I just sent it to you.
Summer
It's a
Heights. Yeah,
picture of him, and
yeah.
it's like uh, me. It says I say I miss my friends, and then my friends say, "Let's do FaceTime." And it's me again, and I say no, and they were like, "That's you, that's you," and I was like, "Yeah, that is." I'm doing that.
That's my favorite meme when the guy's laying on the ground and the guy's like, "Hey, what are you doing?" And he's like, "Nothing." He's like, "You want to go do something?" He's like, "I said I'm doing nothing. I said I'm not doing anything."
All right.
Good episode.
Thank you, everybody, for listening.
We stayed on topic pretty good on this one.
Yeah.
Yeah, hope everybody's safe. Stay strong. Stay at home. Go buy yourself a kiddie pool.
I need one.
Miss you, but not that much. All righty, sir.
All right, man.
Let me see here. Stop recording.